What's going on? And today I'll be sharing my installation of the SoundSkins Pro soundproofing material. I'll be showing you the installation in my WRX, but mostly everything will be applicable to any car. SoundSkins Pro is a 3-in-1 soundproofing material that serves as a deadener and noise reducer. The objective here is to seal the large cavities in the door to make it act more like a sub enclosure for your door speakers. This should considerably improve the mid-bass output of those speakers while reducing sound-robbing vibrations, rattles, and road noise. Check out the video description for links and more info on the products you see me using, and consider subscribing for more content just like this. Let's get to it. So in order to install our soundproofing material, we have to remove the door panel. So if you don't have this car, not a big deal. Most cars, you remove the door panel in a very similar way. In this car, there's a screw right here behind the door handle, and then there's a screw in here. The rest of the door is held in place by clips. So to do this, you're gonna need a very small flathead screwdriver like this to get into that little gap right there. So just be careful you don't scratch your panel. Just go in there just like that, and then push in, and it comes right out, and then you can remove the screw. The second screw is hidden behind this little door right there. So we're going to do the same thing. You're going to stick your small flathead in that little gap there and push in, and it should open up the little door and expose the screw. Now that we removed those two screws, we can pull the panel out. So the clips for the panel are all around the bottom and the sides. The top right here actually sits on the groove. So when we pull the bottom and the sides out, the door is going to remain in place until we lift it up and out. Now you got to remember, there are two wires that are connected to the handle and your lock. And there's also a cable that's connected to these buttons right here. So we're going to have to get behind it before we can fully remove it. So just be aware that it's there so you don't pull it out and damage something. The best place to pull the door panel out is right here on the side. You can just stick your fingernails on any one of these little gaps or grooves back here, and you can pull it right out. Then once you get it out a little bit, you can do the rest. So as you can see, the panel is going to remain in place. It's not going to fall because it's in the groove up here. So now we're going to remove it just a little bit, enough to get behind it and unplug this connector and remove those two wires. All right, so make sure you swing out the bottom a little bit, and then you can lift up and pull it out. Now, these are pretty easy to remove. All you got to do is snap them out that way. Snap it out and lift it up. If it gives you a hard time, then just pull the handle from the front, and then you can remove it like that. Same thing with the one underneath it. Comes right out. Then you can just unplug these two connectors right here. Once you have all that taken out, then you can remove the panel. All right, now with the panel off, we can move on with our installation. We're going to remove the speaker. So, I mean, it should look something like this. It'll have a plug, probably something wrapped around the plug. Like I just took it off. But if you have something wrapped around the plug, just take it off. And that's to prevent rattles against the metal right there. So just push on this little tab on the side and pull the connector off. And then you have, of course, 3 screws securing it in place. The next thing we're going to do is take this vapor barrier off. And before you do that, I'd recommend taking pictures of your door. That way, if you have to reference them for any reason, you have them available. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just taking pictures of it. So once you have some pictures for reference, you have to remove everything that's holding the barrier in place. This is one of the things that's holding it in place, so I'll remove that. Okay, this right here is also holding it in place. Let's go ahead and remove this connector because it's going to end up coming off anyhow. So what we're going to do is we're going to partially take this off. So just pick any spot and just remove it from one spot. And it should be very easy after that. The cleaner you take this off, the less cleaning you'll have to do later on. And we're not going to reuse this, by the way. So when I first got the car, I installed some of this sound damping material, and you can see it all over the place here. And as you can see, it's still holding up very well. So that's a good thing. I'm going to leave this in place, and the SoundSkins is just going to go over this. It's not going to bother anything, and it'll just make it better. Okay, when you get to this point, it's a good idea to also take some more pictures with your phone. I went ahead and did that already for reference, because what we're going to do is we're going to actually remove this cable. Now, we're not actually uninstalling it. All we're doing is unclipping it from the door. So there's a clip here, one here, one here, and there's a clip over here, and then there's a clip here. The SoundSkins is actually going to have access holes for those clips, and the cable is going to sit over top the SoundSkins. That means that the SoundSkins is going to have some slits in it for the cables to run through. So for example, right here is going to have a slit like that, and that cable is going to run down. So these are all things that you're going to have to keep in mind. So if you take a few pictures, you can reference it later when you go and put the clear sheet over this so that we can start capturing the shape that we're going to cut. We're going to go ahead and do that. It helps to have pliers like this. All of these get access from underneath. So this is a side airbag sensor, so I'm just gonna leave it like this, and then when I cut the slit on the SoundSkins, I'll just slip it through the slit and put it back and bolt it back in there. So we'll just let that be for now and move on. There we go. We are done with this cable. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna temporarily put the cable inside so it's out of the way. I'll do the same for these actually. So now we have a nice canvas to work with. I'm gonna get a clear sheet to put over this. That way we can start marking all of the spots where we need to be mindful of where the bolts are or we need to attach screws. And we make sure we leave an opening for all of these cable clips that we just took off. So what you want now is just a clear plastic like this that you can put over this so you can capture the shape that you want, so we can transfer that shape to the SoundSkins. You don't have to go out of your way to get something expensive for this. I'm using a garbage bag, literally a heavy duty garbage bag. I just cut it like this, and this is what I'm gonna use. As long as it fits the space that you want and that it's clear so you can see through it, it'll do the job. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna secure it all around here, because you don't want it moving and shifting as you're marking stuff. You wanna make sure that once you secure it on there and you start drawing your shape around it, that it doesn't move at all. So just keep that in mind. So here's a neat trick that you can do to make this easier. You can just use the existing panel holes. So just remove the clips from the panel and then just stick the clips right in this plastic. That way it'll be secured in place. So with the plastic in place, we can start outlining the shape of the door using a Sharpie to trace the outer perimeter as you see me doing here. You only want to go out about to where the holes for the panel clips are, so if you need to, use the door panel as a reference. Make sure that you mark the location of every clip, bolt, the holes where the cables attach, and also the locations where the cable goes from the inside of the door to the outside, because we will need to cut a slit on the SoundSkins and run the cable through there. This is where those pictures you took on your phone earlier will come in handy. You'll only have to do this twice, one for the front doors and one for the rear doors, because they are mirrors of each other. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take this off and I'm gonna lay it over a large piece of cardboard, and I'm gonna tape it to the cardboard and then cut out this piece out of the cardboard. That way I have a template of the door. The reason we do that is because it's much easier to grab that cardboard template and put it over the SoundSkins and then cut the SoundSkins from there. All right, so I finished the template and here it is. That's a good time to grab it and do a fit test. And just to see if you're in the right ballpark here with all of these screws and places where you need access. This door actually happens to be very wide for the size of this car. So we'll have to do a little bit of patching, but for the most part, it's gonna be one big sheet of SoundSkins going over this. Now, look at the size of these openings here. These are pretty big openings, so I can tell right away that the SoundSkins is gonna make a big difference. Obviously, I already have this sound dampening stuff on here that I installed when I first got the car. I'm not gonna be doing that again. I'm not gonna remove this or install any more, because I think what's there is already enough. So what I'm trying to do now is basically reduce the road noise and seal all of these cavities and make the door act as an enclosure. If you're doing this from scratch, you're not gonna have to worry about doing this outer panel, because obviously the SoundSkins is gonna cover the entire area. But you should take pieces of it and put it back here and cover 25 to 50% of the flatter areas. So you can stick your hands in here and see that there's some pretty long flat areas back here, especially behind the speaker. All the way down here, this is all a spot where you could actually put a long sheet. You should cut the SoundSkins and put pieces back there. And if you don't want to do it with the SoundSkins, you can get just the butyl-lined foil like this for the automotive application for sound dampening, and do it like I did it when I first got the car. So now that I did that fit test, I'm gonna take my template and I'm gonna cut the SoundSkins. I will say this about this job. Water does get in here. It's supposed to. Okay, water seeps in here when it's raining or when you're washing the car, water does seep in there. So if you remove this cover right here, you might actually see water back there that hasn't evaporated yet. There's actually holes underneath the door right here that allows that water to drain through. That's important because if you don't end up using SoundSkins, which is made for this and it's 100% waterproof, make sure that whatever material you use is 100% waterproof. And normally, obviously, if you're using automotive materials for this purpose, you're not gonna have to worry about that because they're made for this anyhow. But if you're using foam, make sure it's closed cell foam so that it doesn't absorb any water, and make sure you don't cover those drain holes down here. Now's the time to cut our SoundSkins, so I'll unroll it on the floor and place the cardboard template over it. Then I'll trace out the shape with a Sharpie. The most important thing here is to ensure that it doesn't move. For the slits, you can just mark them with a razor. The easiest way to cut the material is with a good pair of scissors, and it also helps not to do this in a very hot environment. For the small shapes in the middle, a razor is best. So I'm done cutting all of the SoundSkins for all of my doors, but I wanted to show you something. So obviously, as you can see right here, I was able to get most of the shape that I needed off of, one single piece. However, this door is wide, very wide, and the SoundSkins is only 20 inches wide. Because I want to do maximum coverage here, I had to add a couple pieces up top to make it fit. And this is not a big deal. That's what you should do if you don't have enough. So this is the time to do your fitment test. You're going to place it where it's going to go and make sure that you got all of the holes that you're going to need, that everything lines up right. That one, that everything lines up right. If you don't get it perfect right off the bat, then it's not a big deal because you can always correct it at this point right here. The most important part of this installation is going to be surface preparation. Now, if you have a relatively new vehicle, your door skins is going to be pretty clean for the most part, but it might not be. This is not a sealed cavity. Water does get in there, and depending if you have your window open or whatnot, other stuff might get in there, dust and other contaminants. So the point is that you have to really clean this surface very well. If it's much more than what you see here, then I would even go as far as maybe cleaning it with soap and water, and completely drying it, and then going over it with alcohol and a rag. But because mine is pretty clean already, I'm just gonna go over it with alcohol. If you have some residue from the glue that holds that vapor barrier in place, like I do right there, don't worry about it because the SoundSkins has that butyl behind it and it'll adhere to that, so you don't have to worry about that. The next step is to get all of the things out that we're gonna have to put through the slits in the SoundSkins. Those slits that we cut into the SoundSkins, this is where they're gonna come in handy. So the whole goal here is to have all of that cabling on the outside of the SoundSkins. The entirety of the cables is gonna have to go through this slit right here. So I'm gonna have to probably make that slit a little bigger, but those are the adjustments that you make as you go. It's part of the reason why a lot of people who do these tutorials, it broke right there. That's not a big deal. That's actually probably I should have done that to begin with. But a lot of people who show you these tutorials don't show you these little details because they're just not pretty. They're not pretty details, but I don't really care. I just want to show you the reality of doing something like this and how it really looks like when you're really doing the installations. So this cable right here is going to go in through here. That's what this slit was for. This slit right here is for these. This slit right here is for this. I'm gonna plug this in. This is the window motor. Make sure that you plug these in properly, that you hear a nice distinctive click, that you pull back on it and make sure it's properly plugged. Because once you do this, you don't want to have to go back in there. Notice how I'm doing this a little bit at a time. I took the wax paper off this piece just to kind of hold that in place. I'm going to start this way and work my way this way and adjust as I need to because it might not be perfect on there. So because because I messed up and didn't account for this curvature right here when I initially did the template, I'm going to have to do a little bit of patching over here with some of the extra SoundSkins that I have. Not a big deal at all, but it's very important to get the area around the speaker because obviously that's where the speaker is and that gets the most vibration. So I'm going to go ahead and go over this whole thing with this roller and then move on. So I went ahead and grabbed some of the spare SoundSkins and did a little bit of patching up because I wanted this to be as complete coverage as possible. Obviously, all of the holes are sealed and they have some of that good foam over them along with the rest of the door. So the door will vibrate less now. It'll let through a lot less road noise, and this speaker right here is going to be able to do a lot more with less. More than likely, I'm still going to replace these speakers eventually, but for now, I think this is going to be a really good upgrade. Don't be afraid to put some of this SoundSkin if you need to patch and put some on top, because this stuff adheres to itself very well. It was made to do that. So, if you need to put a piece on top for whatever reason, like I did right there, don't be afraid to do so. It's not going to go anywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and put the speaker back. Okay, so the door is back. It didn't give me much trouble to get back in there, which it shouldn't, but it was a little tighter than, without the SoundSkins on there. That's to be expected, of course, because all of the cables and stuff is kind of sitting against it, and there's some foam pieces here that might push a little bit against the SoundSkins. But as long as you're not really jamming it in there, you should be okay. There is a second part of this that I'm not going to include in this video. I'm going to do it in a separate video because I'm waiting for some materials to come in. And not only that, but I actually wanted to just do a review on the SoundSkins by itself. So I didn't want to add anything else to it and then give you a review, because then the review would be for both things together. I wanted to just do the SoundSkins. There's a lot of stuff on this door panel, this outer door panel, that we need to do to complete the job. Basically, there's a lot of little parts in here that rattle, and this whole panel could use a little bit of soundproofing itself. But I didn't want to put SoundSkins on this outdoor panel. SoundSkins is very heavy, and I didn't want to add, just another layer of SoundSkins. So I'm going to get some cheaper closed cell foam to put on there, and I'm going to do a separate video, part 2 to this video, in which I cover how to rattle-proof the doors, which is quite a few things that you can do back there, and how to, finish the job completely. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, test drive it, and then I'll be right back through the magic of editing and let you know exactly how it went. I'm about to let you hear for yourself the difference in road noise. You may have noticed when I removed the door panel that my door already had some closed cell foam installed. Because of this, the difference I experienced in road noise reduction was mild, since my car was relatively quiet to begin with, and the law of diminishing returns applies here. There still was a clear difference, but if you install this on a car without any soundproofing at all, your results will be much better than mine. So I'm pretty happy with the reduction in road noise. Even a reduction of 2 to 3 decibel adds up and makes a big difference in ride quality. But I'm thrilled with how much better the stereo sounds. The mids finally have a nice clear pop to them, and the music sounds much fuller. This is all from the same speakers. All music sources have improved, but high quality music sounds phenomenal now. If you're worried you won't be able to hear your expensive exhaust or your engine, the opposite is actually true. With reduced road noise in the cabin, both the exhaust and engine have a cleaner sound inside, and the interior of the car just feels better, all from about 12 pounds of material. I really wish I had done this from day one. This is one mod that I really recommend, and it's fairly easy to accomplish if you take your time. But if you don't feel comfortable doing this, I would still pay to have it done professionally. The sooner you do it, the sooner you'll start enjoying premium sounding music in your car. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, take care.